Okay, so let's talk about family trusts. You've probably heard the term thrown around, right? Something about saving on taxed. But the details, the how and why, they always seem a bit fuzzy. Well, if you've ever wondered what they're really all about, you've come to the right place. We're going to break down the absolute basics for you.
All right, first things first, let's tackle the biggest myth out there. When you hear family trust, what pops into your head? You know, castles, private jets, maybe Scrooge McDuck swimming in his money vault? Is that really the picture? Well, for most of us, that's the classic misconception.
Yeah, you can pretty much throw that whole image right out the window. The reality is way, way more down to earth, and that's exactly what we're going to get into right now.
See, the thing is, a family trust isn't some kind of exclusive members-only club. Not at all. It's really just a financial tool, one that's available to a lot more people than you'd think. It's less of a status symbol and much more like, a useful wrench in your financial toolkit. And here's the number that really drives that point home. We're not talking millions or even hundreds of thousands. To get a family trust set up, you're typically looking at something in the ballpark of $2,000 to $3,000. So when you stack that up against the myth, it's a completely different world, isn't it? It's way more accessible than most people think. Okay, so if it's not just for the super wealthy, what exactly is a trust? Let's get right down to it, because honestly, getting your head around this basic concept is the key to understanding everything else.
So at its core, it's actually a pretty simple idea. Just imagine this. There's one person, called the trustee, who holds and manages stuff. Assets like property or investments. But they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for the benefit of other people. And those people are called the beneficiaries. That's the whole setup, really.
And this next point is absolutely crucial. A trust isn't a thing. It's not a legal entity like a company is. The best way to think about it is as a legal relationship. It's all about the set of rules and duties that exist between the person managing the assets, the trustee, and the people who get the benefit, the beneficiaries.
So, if it's a relationship, who are the people actually involved? Let's meet the key players. There are really just two main roles you've got to understand to see how the whole thing works.
All right, first up, you've got the trustee. This is the manager, the caretaker. They have a really serious legal obligation to always act in the best interests of the beneficiaries. Then, on the other side, you have the beneficiaries. And, well, just like the name says, they're the ones who get the benefit from the trust's assets, whether that's income or something else.
Now here's a quick but super important point about the trustee. While yeah, it can be a person, the standard advice is pretty much always to set up a company to do the job. So why is that? Well, think of a company as a legal shield. It creates a solid wall between the trust's assets and anyone's personal assets. That protection is a huge, huge benefit.
And that brings us to a question that trips a lot of people up. What's the real difference between a trust and a company? I mean, they sound kind of similar, but in reality, they are completely different beasts. So here's the simplest way to think about it. A company, that's its own separate legal person. It can earn money, and it pays its own tax. But a trust, remember, it's not a person, it's that relationship. So the income doesn't get stuck in the trust. Instead, it flows through the trust directly to the beneficiaries. And because they receive the money, they're the ones who pay the tax. All right, we've covered a fair bit of ground there, so let's just boil it all down. If you're going to remember just a few things from all this, here's what you need to know.
Okay, 3 key things. Number 1, forget the myth. Anyone can set one up. They're not just for the mega wealthy. Number 2, a trust is a relationship, not a separate legal thing like a company. And number 3, it all comes down to that simple structure, a trustee managing assets for the beneficiaries. That's it.
Just getting these basics down is the most important first step. And once you do, it opens up a pretty big question, one that's worth thinking about. Now that you know what a trust is, what could a structure like this actually mean for your family's future?